Good morning, friends and relatives. How you doing today? I was curious. I wanted to know, did any of you watch the rocket launch on Saturday? The rocket went up into space. So I figured today we could talk about kind of what happened and where did it go. And this book is called The National Geographic Little Kids First Big Book of Space. And it's written by Catherine Hughes and it's illustrated by David Aguilar. But this is a chapter book. And we talked about chapter books before. I'm going to show you the page that's inside. Here's the pages, and really colorful too. Really pretty, colorful pictures. So here's the table or the page of contents. Okay? And this up here says contents. So again, this tells you what is inside this book, what chapters that you can go to, and you can say, okay, in this first chapter, our solar system, it talks all about the solar system, is on chapter 8. So you just have to go to chapter 8, and it tells you what page. Okay, so we're going to go, it starts on page 10. So we could do that. But I am going to talk about the information that's on chapter 5. Chapter 5. And this information is exploring space. So it tells you, and like right here is the number, the page number. This is on page 106. So when I'm looking at the table of contents, it will tell me, go to 106, chapter 5, and I can find everything about exploring space. So on this picture, these two pictures, this says, someday astronauts may explore Mars. They might take a rocket ship and they might go to Mars. And on this picture, this has the picture of, I think, of what Mars looks like. And I'm going to tell you how we know that. So they have like dust storms. There's lightning. This is showing you a shelter that they made or their house. This is solar collectors right here. It's collecting the rays from the sun to make energy. And look, this is a laboratory where they go and they work and they look at different things under microscopes and they do exploration and they'll look at those things in that laboratory. This is the astronaut. Yep. And he has on his really cool suit. And the kids in our classroom know why that they have to wear suits, because it's either very, 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 very hot or very cold, and there's no air for them to breathe. There's no air in space. So this in the back here, and this special suit creates air for them to breathe. And look at this. There's a vehicle, a space vehicle for them to get around. So this is just what it looks like if there was a group of people or a colony of people, which means people that are going to live there and make it their home. This is what it looks like. This is a picture of what they think it might look like. But we know already that our rockets that went up, here's a rocket right here. Okay? This rocket is right here. And that rocket, which was launched on Saturday, launch means it went whoosh, it went up in the air. It blasted off. You meant 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off! And that's what it did. Yep. And so what happened on Saturday was, I just want to make sure I get this right, is the rocket launch was with NASA and SpaceX And that rocket was called Falcon 9. Okay? Now, NASA is another word for the National Aeronautics Space Administration. So they take the beginning of that big long sentence and they just take the beginning letter, National N, Aeronautics A, Space S, Administration A, and they call it NASA. It's a shorter version of saying all those words. So NASA and SpaceX put together a program so they could make their rocket and send it into space. Now this is a different rocket, okay? And this is a rocket shape. Now the rocket shape lets it zoom through the atmosphere. It is long and thin with a pointed nose. See it? And that's what we saw go into the atmosphere. The atmosphere, it goes up, up, up in the sky, into the sky, past the sky, into space, into the atmosphere. The rocket that carried the Curiosity into space to start its journey to Mars was called Atlas V. So this rocket's name was Atlas V. And right here, see that? That's the Curiosity. Now the Curiosity is a car-sized rover. Rover is, it's just kind of like a really kind of cool Jeep kind of thing. And it goes across in Mars. See, here it is going around on Mars, on the soil on Mars. And it collects, it's got all kinds of neat things in it. And it has these arms, and they go and they collect specimens or pieces of dirt and soil and rocks, and they store it, and they can even look at it with the cameras that the Curiosity has. Okay? Now, we used to have a space program called the Space Shuttle. And maybe some of you have pictures of the Space Shuttle. I have a really good picture at school. And the Space Shuttle, they stopped putting the Space Shuttle into space in 2011. So this has been the first, that rocket launch yesterday was
My apologies. I couldn't hear what you said.
I'm sorry about that. My watch was talking to us. So that launch yesterday of that rocket had, at the tip of the rocket, they had a capsule, and there were 2 astronauts in that capsule. So that rocket took those astronauts up into outer space, and they launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It's a really cool place to go see. So, exploring space rockets. Astronauts and equipment need to ride on a rocket to reach space. The rocket blasts up into the air. That is called a launch. The rocket has to reach a speed of more than 7 miles a second to escape gravity. Gravity is what keeps us on the ground. If we didn't have gravity, if we didn't have that pull that keeps us on the ground, we'd be floating around in the air, just like the astronauts do when they get in outer space, because there's no gravity. Some rockets put satellites into orbit around Earth. Satellites can help make maps, connect cell phones, and send television signals. So this is a weather satellite. Can you see that? That orbits around the Earth. And that weather satellite helps us know if we should dress for rain, snow, or sunshine. So that's how the weatherman, they kind of get their information from weather satellites. Oh, this is a really neat picture. This is where the astronauts went. The astronauts went to the International Space Station. Now, the International Space Station, or ISS, it orbits the Earth. It just goes and floats and circles the Earth. It was built for astronauts to work and live for a few weeks or months in outer space. They can work in outer space. Astronauts sometimes leave the ISS to work outside the station, called a spacewalk. They take a walk in space. There is no air in space, and it is very, very cold. So an astronaut wears a protective spacesuit. See that? There's a spacesuit. Can you see it? And it's a very special suit. It has very special things on it, very special equipment. There's their space helmet with the sun visor. Like I said, the sun's shining. Think about the sun's up there, and it's just shining down on their face. They have heated gloves because it's so cold. They have life support backpack that gives them air, makes the air for them. And then here's a stripe here on this astronaut suit, and that identifies what astronaut it is that's floating around out there. And they have space boots. A space suit has many parts to protect the astronaut. And there he is. He's out doing spacewalk. He's out floating around in space, but he's working on the space station. So he's got himself connected to that space station because otherwise he'd just float away. Now, some of the largest telescopes on Earth are on top of mountains where the air is clearer. So there's a big telescope here. And that is on top of this mountain so it can be closer to the atmosphere. And there's no clouds or there might be no light from in the cities so they can see. And that's what they use. They use the telescopes. And sometimes you can look, maybe some of you have a telescope, and you can go look at night, and you can look up in the sky, and you can see the moon, you can see some of the planets. Okay? Now binoculars, we use them at school too. Those are the two almost glasses-like things that we hold up. You know, you hold them up to your hand, your eyes with your hands, and you can look through them, and it makes everything look closer. The binoculars, they can use that too, but a telescope is really, really powerful. Now, there is a school bus-sized telescope that's out in space already, and that's called the Hubble Space Telescope, and that orbits Earth. And the Hubble telescope has taken more than 1 million pictures of planets, stars, and galaxies since 1990. It took these space photos. So this is the Hubble telescope, and this is the photos they took. This is a red supergiant star, and this is called a Cat's Eye Nebula. Isn't that neat? Flying above the atmosphere, the Hubble has an even better view of space than the telescope on top of the mountains. Isn't that neat? Those are pictures from the telescope. So, there are lots of things in outer space, and there are lots of ways that we are exploring our solar system. What's a solar system? Well, this is the solar system right here where we live. In our solar system, there's the sun, there's the planet Mercury, there's the planet Venus, there's us, Earth, there's Mars, see that? Then there's Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Now the rest of these guys, there's Pluto, and there's Eris, and there's 3 other ones. These are called dwarf planets, and they're out there too. But a lot of times we just concentrate on the planets that are in our solar system that we know a lot about. But they're exploring. They're exploring these planets, and they're exploring the moons. There's a lot of moons circling these planets. So I hope this helped you out a little bit. It's a really neat chapter book. maybe if mom and dad might have one, maybe an older one, or maybe they have some pictures from like National Geographic magazines. That might be a good idea for you to go get those out today and just look at the pictures and ask them if you want them to read you the information if you can't read it yet. But there's a lot of things in this book about space. It's just about Pluto. There's Pluto. Pluto, we used to call it a planet. Now we call it a what? What do we call it now? Remember? We got it right here. I showed you. There's the universe. Where's our universe? Oop, I missed it. Well, they still call it a dwarf planet. They don't count it anymore as one of the major planets in our solar system. So you guys have a wonderful day and go explore. Explore. You can pretend you're a spaceman today. You can pretend you're shooting up in a rocket. Or you can look at some really cool pictures in some magazines. And I know they have it on TV every once in a while. They've had it on TV on the news. And some of you, if you have cable television, they have the NASA channel. And you can go to the NASA channel and you can watch what they have to say about what the launch was like and what the astronauts are doing today. You have a great day and blast off. Have a great day.